I love it for you so much.
In my life that all of my choices are for me.
Michelle Obama has sparked a wave of speculation lately, and it all boils down to one surprising question. Has she chosen to walk away from her marriage with former President Barack Obama?
Man, it is whatever I want, Sophia. It's whatever I want.
That's the rumor swirling in certain circles, but the truth is much more complex and far more fascinating. What appears to be a sudden decision to skip prominent events and seize her own independence has convinced some onlookers that the Obama's marriage might be crumbling. Yet once Michelle offered her own perspective, it became clear that this was a different story entirely.
Michelle Obama now slamming speculation her marriage is in trouble during a new podcast with Sophia Bush.
This year, people were, they couldn't even fathom that I was making a choice for myself, that they had to assume that my husband and I are divorcing.
It's a story about a woman who spent years under unrelenting public scrutiny, who finally decided to claim her own life on her own terms.
And if it doesn't fit into the sort of stereotype of what people think we should do, then it gets labeled as something negative and horrible.
For countless people, the Obamas have long embodied a blend of elegance, resilience, and unwavering partnership. They survived the glare of 2 presidential terms and emerged with a brand that seemed unbreakable. From holiday specials in the White House to viral talk show segments, the couple's synergy was on display time and again. Many assumed that once Barack left office, they'd sail into a tranquil post-political existence, always side by side, continuing as the inseparable pair the public adores. So when Michelle skipped President Carter's memorial and turned down invitations to other high-profile occasions, the rumor mill erupted. How could someone so famously committed to public service suddenly step out of the spotlight?
On a recent podcast, she said her recent choices included skipping high-profile events, were about self-care and not marital discord. She explained her Hawaii vacation kept her from Jimmy Carter's funeral.
It all escalated when certain tabloids and online communities noticed that Michelle also avoided Donald Trump's inauguration in January. Unlike her earlier public roles, where she'd appear graciously at nearly every major ceremony, she was noticeably absent, fueling chatter about a split. In a world primed for scandal, many fans jumped to the most dramatic conclusion. Michelle was distancing herself from Barack.
They couldn't even fathom that I was making a choice for myself.
The real reason, as she later revealed, was simpler. She just wanted to make choices free from the demands that once defined her. After 8 long years in the White House and more than 3 decades of marriage, Michelle finally felt the freedom to shape her own schedule. For some, this logic was impossible to accept. How could such a respected public figure just choose not to show up? Michelle addressed it head-on with Sophia Bush on her Work in Progress podcast. She confessed that for the first time in her adult life, she could say yes to the things she wanted, with no permission needed and no burdensome obligations.
If a girlfriend calls and says, "Let's go here," I can say yes. I can.
Yeah.
She could travel spontaneously if a friend called. She could set her own agenda without worrying about a Secret Service detail or the staff that once hovered around her every move.
I love it for you so much.
In my life that all of my choices are for me.
While her fans cheer this independence, skeptics view it as a red flag, whispering that a growing distance between her and Barack must be the cause. This skepticism, Michelle says, underscores a deeper issue. The public still struggles to accept that a woman can prioritize herself without that choice automatically meaning crisis or conflict. That perception only grew when Barack himself admitted he was in what he called a deep deficit with his wife.
I was in a deep deficit with my wife, so I have been trying to dig myself out of that hole.
On the surface, the phrase sounded dire. Some people took it as proof that the couple was floundering. Yet taken in full context, his remark hinted at a simpler truth. After years of leading the free world, he recognized he had neglected certain relationship fundamentals. Making things right required both of them to slow down, figure out what they needed individually, then come back together in a healthier way. Indeed, Michelle clarified that embracing her own time didn't mean she was excluding Barack. It meant she was reclaiming a piece of herself that had been put on hold throughout the White House years. Rewind to 2008 when the Obamas burst onto the international stage. Michelle had been a lawyer, a hospital executive, and a passionate community advocate before ever setting foot in the White House. Once Barack took office, her life changed in immeasurable ways. Every move was scrutinized, every fashion choice dissected, every cause she championed placed under a magnifying glass. Meanwhile, she was raising 2 young daughters in an atmosphere few can fully grasp. Although she embraced her role as First Lady with grace, it's clear that both the personal personal and public aspects of that role could be suffocating. When she finally emerged from that bubble, it was only natural that she'd crave a sense of self that went beyond her identity as Barack's wife or the First Lady. However, this pursuit of independence introduced a strange dynamic. Fans who remembered the warmth she exuded on talk shows and social events were bewildered by her absence from new official occasions. Gossip channels spun elaborate tales. Was she tired of playing nice, or was she trying to embarrass her husband? Some even suggested that her skipping events was a silent protest against certain political figures. Yet Michelle's explanation was refreshingly straightforward. For once, she was living life on her own schedule. If that meant saying no to events she didn't deem necessary, she was free to do so. Curiously, because this newfound autonomy looked so different from the modest, endlessly accommodating Michelle the public knew, it provided easy fodder for those seeking sensational headlines. Then came Barack's turn to surprise the public. He hinted during a discussion at Hamilton College that he was actively working to restore what he might have neglected in his marriage. The phrase deep deficit set off alarm bells. People speculated about everything from secret fights to hidden resentments. But as longtime couples know, a relationship spanning decades often demands recalibration, particularly after leaving a job as high pressure as the presidency. Some found it shocking that a modern power couple would openly discuss these marital ebbs and flows. Others found it refreshing that they didn't pretend to be perfect. Barack's comment wasn't a revelation of impending divorce. It was an honest admission that even a seemingly unshakable couple must keep rediscovering each other. Remember, the Obama's marriage has endured more stress tests than most. Their early years were already a juggling act of career ambitions and community work. Then came the pressures of national politics, culminating in 2 terms in the White House. Cameras followed their every step, leaving no room for a bad day in private. Even after Barack's presidency ended, the spotlight remained fierce. The post-White House phase offered them something they'd never truly experienced before: the ability to just say no to obligations and focus on personal growth. While some onlookers might call Michelle's independence a break from Barack, it's far more likely just the normal evolution of a couple that spent years under extraordinary constraints. Still, the media frenzy hasn't slowed. When Michelle was spotted traveling solo or hosting events without Barack by her side, observers demanded explanations. Did she leave him? Was she seeking solitude? Michelle pointed out that these questions expose a persistent expectation. A former First Lady must remain perpetually public. Anything else appears suspect. She explained that she's tired of disappointing people, but she refuses to betray her own well-being just to keep up appearances. This, she believes, is the kind of mindset many women grapple with, especially those in high-profile relationships where personal autonomy is often misunderstood. Behind the rumors, there's also the story of what Michelle has been doing with her time. Her podcast soared in popularity, giving her a platform to speak candidly on issues close to her heart. She co-founded a production company with Barack, exploring documentaries and stories that inspire dialogue and community involvement. She has never stopped advocating for healthy living and education initiatives. The difference now is that she's setting her own pace. She can champion the causes she truly cares about, rather than juggling duties she feels obligated to fulfill. And that's a kind of freedom she had long postponed. At the heart of all this chatter is a couple with over 3 decades of history. If Michelle's approach to life has changed, it's worth remembering that marriages evolve too. The stories from their White House years paint a picture of mutual support, but also intense personal sacrifice. Both have admitted that their relationship, like any that survives tumultuous shifts, requires regular maintenance. Today, as they navigate a lifestyle less defined by official schedules, Michelle wants to travel freely, meet friends on a whim, and make decisions that reflect her wishes first. Barack, far from being resentful, seems to recognize the importance of that journey. He's aware that to remain strong as partners, both individuals must thrive on their own. The public reaction speaks volumes about our culture. Some blame Michelle for stepping back, as though her choice symbolizes ingratitude or a marriage in crisis. Others celebrate her for taking control of her life, claiming it's a powerful statement of self-determination. In reality, it's likely both simpler and deeper than the headline suggests. The Obamas are people who lived a chapter of history that demanded near constant availability and grace. Now, they're turning a page, with Michelle leading the way in defining what personal fulfillment looks like. And yes, that includes skipping events if she sees fit. As the speculation rages on, Michelle's own words remain the clearest indicator of what's really happening. She's explained that when she was younger, she always had to consider the needs of her family or her role in Barack's presidency. Now, her daughters are grown and the White House is in the rear view. She finally has permission from herself to set boundaries and choose engagements that align with her goals and interests. The sensationalists who can't accept that a woman might enjoy the freedom to say no are left spinning conspiracy conspiracy theories. Yet the truth may not be juicy enough for them. Michelle Obama is not breaking away from Barack. She's simply being true to herself in a way she couldn't before. The rumors about a possible divorce or rift might be entertaining for some, but they overlook a deeper narrative of self-discovery and marital recalibration. The push toward independence does not automatically mean detachment. Instead, it can strengthen a relationship when two people are free to grow individually. After decades of performing in a role that demanded near perfection, Michelle is allowing herself to redefine who she is, and Barack, for his part, is trying to make up for any emotional deficits left over from those frenetic years. Though they haven't claimed to be perfect, they have demonstrated again and again their capacity to adapt and stand by each other. In the end, the Obamas' story invites reflection on how we view public figures, marriage, and the right to personal freedom. This is a couple that tackled one of the most grueling jobs on the planet, walked through countless controversies, and still keeps moving forward together. Even when moving forward involves forging space for individual dreams, there is no secret meltdown or hidden vendetta. There is only a woman deciding that now is her time to discover more about herself, and a man who recognizes the value of that decision. By most accounts, this stage of their life is about balance. They'll continue to champion causes, create content, and care for each other, but in ways that finally allow Michelle to focus on what she wants. For those quick to shout divorce, Michelle's podcast revelations and Barack's confessions are hardly evidence of a broken union. They are instead the milestones of a long, evolving partnership, a partnership that must adapt when the world's demands vanish and personal desires take center stage. The next chapter for the Obamas looks less like a public performance and more like a private reinvention, reminding us that growth doesn't have to mean splitting apart. Sometimes, the greatest challenge and triumph lies in finding new ways to hold on tight while both partners spread their wings. For Michelle and Barack, that means ignoring the talk, living life on their own terms, and charting a future that remains as captivating as the one that captured everyone's hearts all those years ago.